thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our 50th anniversary conference. It's amazing to see such a great turnout. Plenty of old faces for me in the room, which is lovely, and lots of new ones too, which is kind of the point of the conference too. But I'll come back a bit in a minute to why we wanted to have this conference. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mary Spowage and I'm the director of the Fraser of Allander Institute. I've been lucky enough to be the director of this institution for the last 4 years of its 50-year existence. And one of the things that I've been very conscious of as I've been the director, and before that the deputy director of the Institute, is how precious a thing the institution is, including its reputation and the important role it has in Scottish society, and particularly in the field of economic policy. But before I get into that sort of stuff, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping for the conference. Please share your pictures and insights using the hashtag FEI50 if you're social media inclined. Just one thing, you'll see on the agenda that tomorrow morning we have the First Minister speaking, which we were happy to tell the attendees of the conference, but just please don't post that online until tomorrow morning when the First Minister is here, if you don't mind. So we are going to be taking photos throughout the conference. There was we're also going to be videoing all the sessions so that we can make them available afterwards. We did say that in the conference sign up, but just to let you know, we're going to be using those materials so we can share this afterwards. With all of the organisation that goes into a conference like this, we couldn't quite bear it being hybrid as well. But we did say we would try and make sure that these things were available afterwards for reuse. The conference venue does have its own Wi-Fi network. So if you select TIC conferences, you should be able to access Wi-Fi throughout the building. And I think the signal in this room is quite bad. So I think if you want to get your emails, you might well have to connect to the Wi-Fi network. You'll see you all have very elegant blue lanyards. If you're looking for a bit of help, then look for the red lanyards. This is the FEI team who are here to help you if you have any questions and need any help. You don't know where you're going, you don't know where the loos are, you forgot where you put your coat, just come and ask one of the people with the red lanyards for help. We've got plenty of folks around, and also it helps you identify people that you want to talk to if you want to talk about some of our amazing research. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on the origins of the Institute. And there is a bit of a display outside in the place where you were having tea and coffee about the overall history of the last 50 years. It's been quite a lot of fun for us digging through the archives in the Institute, finding out the genesis of the Institute and the idea. And it was established here at Strathclyde, although it wasn't necessarily going to be at Strathclyde, which was an interesting thing that we found in some of the documentation. It was really driven by the Hugh Fraser Foundation, talking to the first director, David Simpson, about establishing an economic research institute focusing on the Scottish economy, and particularly looking at how do we build a set of economic accounts for Scotland, so we really understand the structure of the Scottish economy. And for me, this very genesis of the Institute underlines the sort of work we've been doing ever since, building up the evidence base to be able to properly understand what's going on in the Scottish economy, and then crucially understand how different sorts of economic policies might impact on that. From that foundation have come the development of lots of different models of the Scottish economy, including input-output and CGE models. And the descendants of those models still inform Scottish economic policy making to this day. They're a foundation of the CGE model that the Scottish Government used, for example, now that the Northern Ireland Government use, because we've supported them to do that. And now we're working across the UK to make multi-region versions of these available. But none of that would have been possible without the development of this first set of economic accounts for Scotland. And if you're really geeky and like an input-output table, which who doesn't, the original input-output table that was developed and published in 1978 is outside, and you can go and have a look at the structure of the Scottish economy in 1973, which is the reference year that the table is for. The role of the Institute has waxed and waned with the economic debates of the time, and you can see that when you look at the history banners and the different things that we've done. You know, in the era of you know, oil being found and it's starting to be extracted from the North Sea when the Institute was first established, there was a lot of focus on things like that. As devolution happened in Scotland, there was a lot more focus on tax and spending powers. And in the last few years, we've focused much more on how we can get economic insights about social policy priorities for the Scottish Government, particularly things like child poverty. So I guess I'd see us as filling an important evidence gap wherever it is, wherever we can bring economic insights to policy questions in Scotland. I put a QR code here, which is to a series of podcasts that I have done with former directors and other key figures for the Institute, which are very interesting and actually don't just talk about those people's experiences of being there at the start of the Institute or through its period, through its whole existence, but also they're a real mirror to the economic conditions at the time, and also some reflections about you know, the next steps for the institution and maybe for the institutional landscape in Scotland. So you're probably aware that our projects cover a vast area of different policy areas now. There's just some examples here. Projects with providers of services in Scotland to see whether their services are effective. So one with the WISE group here, trying to understand whether their interventions help reduce reoffending. We've done a lot of this work in recent years, and we're really keen to help, particularly third sector organisations, to be able to evaluate and monitor the effectiveness of their interventions when they really don't have very much money to do this, and quite often not very much data. So we're quite passionate about taking this forward over the next few years. You'll hear a bit more about this in the next session, but we've got a partnership with Deloitte. We're trying to do something a bit different and do a series of podcasts looking into the economic, the environmental transition we need to make, the energy transition we need to make in Scotland, and also innovation in Scotland and the way that can drive growth. We've had a long-standing programme of work on adults with learning disabilities, which is now in its third phase, which has looked at lots of different things, including things like financial inclusion. But a lot of the focus has been on really how can we get better data on this population so we can understand their needs better, so policy can be designed better. Serving the future, which again we'll hear a bit about in the next session, was about us working with hospitality employers and workers to try and think about how conditions could be improved for workers in the industry. So that was quite unique because we're working directly with employees, but also with employers together. And it really brought those two groups together. So it was a really important project, and that was funded by the Robertson Trust, Adults with Learning Disabilities for Acorns to Trees. You know, we've had a lot of great support on funders over the years. You'll know if you've been paying attention to anything we've done over the last few years that we've had a big focus on child poverty, really because it is one of the government's key priorities. So the question that we ask is not, is this the right thing to do? Because we're not here to advocate for policy solutions, but rather it's, will what the government is doing achieve what it wants to achieve? You know, what is the evidence that the actions it is taking will lead to the outcomes that they want to achieve? What does the evidence tell us about the things that might have those outcomes, you know, in terms of the evidence? So we will continue to do this, particularly in the run-up to the Child Poverty Delivery Plan, which will be published next March, and I imagine it will be a feature of the election debate, well, one would hope, in the run-up to Holyrood 2026. We did a large series on the general election, looking at you know, different parties' proposals and manifestos. that was actually, we did a lot of podcasts over that period as well, which is where, that seemed to be a really popular way of people consuming our content. We're planning to do this, not just for the Scottish election, but also the Welsh election in partnership with the Welsh Governance Centre. So look out for that. This was funded by Nuffield, and fingers crossed that will also be the case. Not found out yet for the next set of stuff, but we will be doing this again for the Holyrood election in 2026. This is a key part of our role, to question these claims that are coming out by politicians in a very fraught political time. This one's a wee bit different. This is this project was done in partnership with some scientists and engineers in Strathclyde, and our colleagues in the wider economics department. But this is about understanding how a local authority, Glasgow in this case, could make decisions about things like air quality and environmental monitoring using data. So how can they actually understand the things that will make a difference on air quality using and developing better data? You'll hear a lot about the Scottish Health Equity Research Unit, which is funded by the Health Foundation, and we're doing that in partnership with the Centre for Health Policy at Strathclyde. And, our angle on that is, what are the socioeconomic determinants of health inequalities? What are the things that lead to health inequalities, which is the expertise that we bring from the FEI side. Our work recently has been with a number of partners as well across the UK, one of which is the Economic Statistics Centre of Excellence, a particular passion of mine, work to improve economic measurement and to understand how we can measure things better in the modern economy. That's included things like regional trade, regional input-output tables, and also things like how we measure the voluntary sector better. And there's a poster on that outside if you're interested in that. And finally, we're also part of the Centre for Inclusive Trade Policy. Again, there's a session on that over the course of today, which is a cross-UK partnership of universities looking at trade policy. The UK now has the ability to make its own independent trade policy since it left the EU. So this is an important cross-UK collaboration of researchers, and the FEI and the wider economics department are part of that. So this just gives you a feel for all of the different stuff we're doing, which is a lot. And I guess if it's important in terms of the success and prosperity of our economy, we're probably going to be looking at it. And we try to ensure that our research is as relevant as possible. But of course, it's only possible with the support of our partners. We think very carefully about making an impact. We don't want to do stuff just for the sake of it. We want it to be useful. We want it to be consumed. We want it to inform policy. And, this has changed hugely over the years. I mean, we didn't have a podcast before 2020, I think. So, we have changed the way we communicate. Blogs didn't used to be the main thing we do. And now I think in terms of the way we communicate with the most people, it probably is. So we try to do regular blogs where we're rounding up lots of different things. We try to do things to respond to particular situations, especially if it's fiscal events, for example. And we do find from the media's perspective, it's quite common for them to be, when is your blog out? So we can use it to write our article, which is nice, but also a big responsibility. And we also do some in-depth stuff. We published one yesterday, for example, on what we can say about disability benefits and how it relates to out of work folks in the economy. So, we do these different types of blogs in different types of ways. And most of our researchers will be writing blogs on the work that they're doing. As I said, podcasts are an increasing part of our outputs, and people generally seem to like consuming them. It's a convenient way to do that. So, I expect to see this continue and probably accelerate, to be honest, over the next year. We do, of course, do in-depth briefing papers and publications. All of this stuff is really important for us communicating our research, but you always have to have the foundation of the excellent, really in-depth research, so that we have the stuff to back it up, basically, when we're communicating our messages. We do lots of contributions to Parliament in many different ways. So, like many of you in the room, we respond to parliamentary inquiries. we give evidence at parliamentary committees. I think over the last few weeks, I mean, in the pre-budget time, we've done about 4 or 5 sessions, I've lost count, in the last couple of weeks for different committees in the Parliament. But we also take on advisory roles for committees where that's appropriate. So I'm currently the budget advisor to the Finance Committee, for example. So it's how we can help committees who, let's face it, compared to the government, are at a disadvantage in terms of the analytical capacity they have, the ability to actually challenge the government and hold them to account. So we do kind of see our role as helping Parliament and helping parliamentary committees to have the information and the right questions to hold the government to account. We participate in lots of advisory groups, steering groups and other roles. This can be difficult for us because there are only so many of us, but we do help where we can. And this is things like the ScotStat board, like the Qualities budget group, and other roles like that, where we're trying to help ensure that policy is made better where possible. And of course, we do lots of engagement with the media, and really a lot of that is about key economic data and also fiscal events, trying to translate it into what does this really mean for the average person, where we can. We also have regular publications like our quarterly economic commentary. This was the first one, the cover of the very first one, in July 1975. There's a fetching display of our different covers throughout the years outside. So you can decide which one you think is your favourite. I think it's the one in the 80s for me. But there's one that looks like a carpet. I'm not sure what was going on there. But yeah, make sure you vote for your favourite one by the end of the day. But we also have our Business Monitor, which is a regular survey of businesses, which launched in 1998 and has been going ever since. And one of the sessions today, the theme sessions, is about that survey and what it's told us over the years. Just very quickly, we do understand that we're an important part of the economic landscape in Scotland, and just like many bodies that have been established in the wake of devolved powers, further devolved powers, I think we all understand that we have a role in ensuring that we nurture the next generation of talent to increase applied economics capacity in Scotland. So we launched Economics Futures in 2019, and this programme is designed to do that, to help expand and diversify applied economics capacity. Because we find that students who are coming to study economics, even if they've chosen it, don't really understand what it is. It's very linked to finance and, being in the city, which is fine if you want to do that. But what we're trying to do from school to undergrad to postgrad is to show students that, you can apply economic thinking and insights to pretty much any problem you want to. So if you want to work in the city, good luck to you, but you can also apply it to child poverty, to housing, to transport, whatever you're interested in. That analytical mindset and so on will be useful in lots of different careers for lots of different bodies. And here are some of our partners who have supported us with it. For example, offering work placements through our work placement programme. Because one of the things we're keen to do also is to ensure that the economics profession is diversified a bit, because quite often it can be about background, because at the moment in Scotland, economics is only taught as a subject in fee-paying schools, for example. So we really are trying to reach into schools to ensure that people can get passionate about economics and the things it can do, and understand what you can do with it, even before they go to university. So we're really proud of Economic Futures, and it's something that we can only do with the help of the partners, many of whom are in this room, who offer placements and help us support the programme. This is the team. Aren't they a gorgeous bunch? And you'll see them around the room with their lanyards on. So I was counting this yesterday while I was preparing this slide. So including me, there's 20 of us now, which is probably as big as it's ever been, the FAI. But compared to the output that we generate, I hope you'll agree that we do a pretty damn good job. So, make sure you say hi to people that you're interested in engaging with today. And I'm really proud of the team for pulling this conference together. It's been a lot of work, a real labour of love, and I'll say thank yous properly tomorrow. But in case anyone's looking a bit stressed with a red lanyard on, you'll know why if you've ever tried to organise a conference. So just finally, why did we want to have this conference? Slight self-indulgence, I suppose. We did want to celebrate. You know, we do think what we do is important. These people are so passionate about what they do, and it is such an honour to lead a team with such dedicated and talented researchers. So we did want to celebrate, but we also wanted to showcase, you know, have the sessions we're having, show off our research, but get external views, challenge ourselves, and think about what we could do together in the future. So please enjoy the conference, have good conversations, make connections, meet new people, and I hope you have a great couple of days. Thank you.